The year is 2025. Spain, a country known for its vibrant culture, beautiful landscapes and lively summer nights, is facing a crisis that few could have predicted just a few years ago. In July, when Spain's streets should be alive with music, laughter and the joy of summer festivals, they're instead burning with anger and unrest. The usual celebrations have been replaced by chaos and fear. The air in Torre-Pacheco, Murcia, is thick with smoke and tension, not celebration. The smell of burning debris mixes with the anxiety of a community on edge, as neighbors look at each other with suspicion instead of friendship. This isn't a movie set, this is modern Spain, torn by a harsh fight between Christian locals and Islamic newcomers. The divide is real, and it's growing deeper with every passing day. The violence here is not just one event, it's a symptom of a much bigger problem spreading across Europe. What's happening in Spain is echoing in cities from Paris to Berlin. Years of bad immigration plans, political denial, and leaders refusing to face reality have led to this explosion. Promises were made, but solutions never came. Politicians talk about being open-minded and progressive, but they ignore the real problems that come with fast, uncontrolled changes in culture and demographics. Many citizens feel their voices are drowned out by empty speeches. The mess in Torre-Pacheco is a desperate cry from people who feel ignored and let down. Their frustration is not just about today, it's about years of feeling invisible in their own country. The picture of a peaceful Christian Spain is being broken. The symbols of tradition and unity are now surrounded by uncertainty and fear. The violence is a wake-up call. Society can't simply bring in large numbers of people from different backgrounds and expect instant harmony. Integration takes time, effort, and honesty. The way society is built, which took centuries to create, is now at risk of falling apart. The cracks are showing not just in buildings, but in the trust between neighbors. This isn't about being against immigrants. It's about facing what happens when migration isn't managed or planned. When people feel overwhelmed, fear and anger take over. Torre-Pacheco is a warning. When a community feels its way of life and safety are in danger, the result is open fighting. The social contract is breaking down. The anger, the fights, the fear, Spain is at a breaking point. The sense of security that once defined these towns is slipping away. As we watch these scenes unfold, we must ask ourselves, how did it get to this point? And what will it take to bring peace back to Spain's streets? Comment down below if you support Spanish Christians' fight for freedom and sovereignty. Like and subscribe to Smarter Brains for more engaging deep dives into breaking news, politics, sociology, economics, and social policy. Every fire starts with a small spark. Sometimes, it's a single moment that ignites emotions simmering just beneath the surface, setting off a chain reaction that no one can predict. In Torre-Pacheco, that spark was the brutal beating of an elderly Spanish Christian man, a figure well known and respected in his neighborhood. Locals say his attackers were a group of North African Islamic newcomers, recent arrivals who many felt hadn't integrated into the town's way of life. This wasn't just a crime, it was seen as an attack on the whole community and its deeply held values, a violation that cut to the heart of local identity. The man's injuries showed a deeper wound, one that went beyond bruises and broken bones. The community's feeling of safety, built over generations, was suddenly shattered. News of the attack spread quickly, first through whispers on the street, then through headlines and social media, fueling a wave of anger and disbelief. For many, it confirmed their worst fears, that their once peaceful town was slipping out of their control and that outsiders were changing the fabric of daily life. The attack became a rallying cry, turning years of quiet frustration and whispered complaints into open rage and public demonstrations. Locals felt their older people, and by extension, their cherished traditions and way of life, were under direct threat, and that something precious was slipping away. The anger wasn't just at the attackers, but at leaders and officials who, in the eyes of many, had failed to protect the town and allowed things to spiral out of hand. The community decided if they didn't stand up for themselves, no one would. Neighbors who had never spoken before now marched side by side, united by fear and determination. This single act of violence was the spark that set off a series of protests and unrest, drawing national attention to Torre-Pacheco and its struggle. Torre-Pacheco's patience had run out, and the town would never be the same again. Anger spilled onto the streets. What began as simmering frustration quickly erupted into open confrontation. as neighbors and strangers alike found themselves swept up in the turmoil. By July 12th, Torre-Pacheco was a battleground. The quiet town was transformed overnight, its familiar streets now marked by barricades and tension. Protests turned into violent fights between local Spaniards, some joined by far-right groups, and North African newcomers, some waving Moroccan flags. The air was thick with shouts, accusations, and the sense that something fundamental was at stake. Barriers went up, things were thrown, and the police struggled to control the chaos. Officers, outnumbered and overwhelmed, tried desperately to keep the peace as tempers flared on both sides. This wasn't just a protest, it was a riot, a clear sign of deep divisions. The violence left scars not only on the streets, but in the hearts of those who witnessed it. 5 people were hurt, 8 were arrested, but the real damage was to the town's social fabric. Trust between neighbors, once taken for granted, was now in short supply. Locals fought for their home and way of life. Newcomers fought back against what they saw as unfair treatment. Each side felt threatened, each side felt unheard. Moroccan flags made tensions worse, turning a local disagreement into a clash of ways of life. Symbols became weapons, and the meaning of community was up for grabs. Leaders sent in more police, but the problems were too deep. Reinforcements could restore order for a night, but not heal the wounds that had opened. When people feel their way of life and safety are at risk, violence follows. Fear and uncertainty spread faster than any rumor, leaving everyone on edge. Torre-Pacheco's battle is a grim preview of what could happen elsewhere if these issues aren't fixed. The unrest here is a warning echoing far beyond its borders. The government can bring back order but not trust. Rebuilding what was lost will take more than speeches and police patrols. This was a town and a country fighting with itself. The wounds of Torre-Pacheco are a stark reminder. Without understanding and real solutions, peace will always be fragile. Amid the chaos, a chant was heard. España es cristiana y no musulmana. Spain is Christian, not Muslim. This wasn't just a saying. It was a statement of who they are, a stand against what they saw as becoming too Islamic. For many, this is about protecting a history shaped by hundreds of years of Christianity. The Reconquista, the big churches, the traditions, these are the main parts of Spanish identity. The arrival of Islamic newcomers is seen by some as a threat, not a good thing. New mosques, headscarves, and Islamic holidays are seen as signs of their culture being pushed out. The anger comes from a feeling of losing something: control, unity, and what they know. The chant is a desperate try to draw a line. This isn't just extreme talk, it's a widespread fear among regular people. When identity feels under attack, the reaction can be explosive. To understand the anger, look at the numbers. 1/3 of Torre-Pacheco's people are from other countries, mostly North African and Muslim. That's twice the national average. The town's economy depends on foreign workers for farming, but the social cost is growing. The result? A town split in two. Native Spaniards feel like strangers in their own home, surrounded by a culture and language they don't recognize. Separate societies have formed, causing suspicion and bad feelings. The feeling of a shared community has gone away. For locals, these aren't just numbers, they're what happens every day. The speed and size of the change have been too much for the town to handle. The promise of different cultures living together peacefully has turned into separation and fighting. Torre-Pacheco is a small example of Europe's problem economic needs versus people getting along. The identity crisis is real and getting bigger. The anger in Torre-Pacheco comes from everyday life. Fear, not feeling safe, and money worries. Residents feel unsafe. Public places are controlled by groups of newcomers, and trust has broken down. The attack on the elderly man was seen as the peak of years of rising crime and neglect. Newcomers are needed for farming, but locals blame them for higher housing costs and wages that don't go up. The story is one of lost safety, identity, money, and belief in their leaders. Locals feel left behind by politicians who care more about business and ideas than their well-being. The result is a dangerous mix of fear, frustration, and feeling alone. When people feel they have nothing left to lose, violence becomes a desperate cry for help. Torre-Pacheco is now a community on the edge. After the violence, blame was put on the media and politicians. The attack on the elderly man was barely reported until riots started. Media called it a far-right protest, ignoring what local people were upset about. Journalists, afraid of being called unfair, make the news sound softer, which makes things more divided. Politicians avoid blame, saying bad things about hate speech or blaming other political groups, but they don't offer real solutions. The issue is used as a political game, not dealt with honestly. This silence and fear create a lot of pressure. Without honest talks, more violence is sure to happen. Torre-Pacheco's violence reminds us of Spain's past, especially the Ejido riots of 2000. There too, a farming town with many Moroccan newcomers exploded after violent crimes. 3 days of chaos showed the dangers of fast population changes and failed integration. El Ejido became a symbol of what happens when problems are ignored. Now, 25 years later, the same pattern repeats. Many newcomers, simmering anger, a violent spark, and public unrest. Politicians didn't learn from history, letting problems get worse. Torre-Pacheco isn't a one-time thing. It's part of a pattern that keeps happening. The farming work system, which relies on newcomers with different cultures, creates separation and instability. El Ejido was a warning. Torre-Pacheco proves the lesson was not learned. Without real change, these scenes will happen again across Spain. The fires in Torre-Pacheco are out, but anger still smolders. This is more than a local riot. It's a warning for Spain's future. The country is at a crossroads: honest talks or deeper division. Ignoring real worries about safety, culture and money only makes things more divided. Spain must balance economic needs with people getting along, or risk more violence. The fight is about more than jobs. It's about who they are and having control. If the government can't protect its people and culture, people will take matters into their own hands. Torre-Pacheco is a cry for help from a society under great stress. Spain's future depends on facing these failures with honesty and strong leadership. To ignore this warning is to invite disaster.